Yes, we can.
Back in 2008, will.i.am went viral with this music video, quoting the Yes We Can speech of then candidate Barack Obama. Well, our guest tonight helped craft that very message. Dan Pfeiffer would go on to serve as President Barack Obama's communications director and a senior advisor to the president. There he is inside the administration. He worked inside that administration alongside Jon Favreau, John Lovett, and Tommy Vitor. And later, outside the administration, that same team created Pod Save America, one of the most successful podcasts in the country. Dan, now out with a new book. It's called Yes, We Still Can, Politics in the Age of Obama, Twitter, and Trump. Dan Pfeiffer, welcome to The Issue Is.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
being here. All right, let's start with the big issue of the week when it comes to politics, and that is the Supreme Court. Anthony Kennedy is resigning. A lot of liberals are freaking out. They feel like there's nothing that they can do to stop a conservative coming onto the court. Is there anything they can do to stop it?
Well, it's going to be very hard because Republicans control the Senate. If Mitch McConnell wants to hold this hearing, take a nominee, hold the hearing in a day, and put him up for a vote the next day, he can do that. But we have to fight. And we will be better off if we have the fight. My message to Democrats, and I think this is exactly what they're doing, is fight like hell. We have to make the country know what is at stake here, because there's going to be Republican senators who will be deciding to shift the balance of the court in a way that could overturn Roe versus Wade, gut workers' rights, voting rights. And so this is really going to be about raising a ruckus and letting people know, and maybe we can succeed. And
there was this front page of the Daily News, which of course was very... There you are. We are, you know what. I mean, what does this mean? Does this mean that Roe v. Wade is going down? Are you concerned about the future of this country? And if so, you're saying just to fight and lose?
Well, I think you fight to win. And this is going to come down to one vote in the Senate. That in order to get this, if Democrats hold strong, in order to get this done, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Jeff Flake are going to have to be the ones to vote to decide to potentially overturn Roe versus Wade. And so we have to fight in the Senate, but we also have to, this is a reminder about why we have to win the elections, both the Senate, so we can make sure this never happens again, but also governor's races, state legislative races, because we can put in place state laws that can help protect women's reproductive freedom, voting rights, et cetera, to insulate at least some of our citizens from what might be the worst decisions of this court.
If Democrats win back the House, if they don't, is Nancy Pelosi still the Democratic leader?
As anyone who listens to the podcast knows, I'm out of the prediction game after getting 2016 wrong. I think I think if we do not win the House, I would not be surprised to see a big shakeup in the Democratic leadership. I will say, as someone who worked for President Obama when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker, she is probably the greatest speaker who has ever served in that role. There would not be the Affordable Care Act. There would not be Wall Street reform. There would not be so many important pieces of progressive legislation without Nancy Pelosi. And if we're going to have the control of the Congress with Donald Trump as president, I feel pretty good with someone as savvy and smart as Nancy Pelosi in charge.
She's great at keeping the caucus together. She's great at raising money. She's also great at getting the other side very angry at her as well. Okay, let's talk about your old boss, which your book is about as well, Barack Obama. New York Magazine has this provocative headline saying basically, where is Barack Obama? Do you feel like he's doing enough? Because there's a lot of people on the left that feel like he's essentially walked out of public life and left us with President Trump.
I think you will see President Obama on the campaign trail this fall. He was out there campaigning for our Virginia gubernatorial candidate, who won, our New Jersey gubernatorial candidate, who won. He did robocalls and other efforts for Doug Jones, who won in Alabama. So he's going to be out where he is having the most impact. I get it. I understand why people are frustrated. I personally would feel better if I could just listen to one more Barack Obama speech. I'd feel good for a moment. But it's not going to change the state of our politics or the state of the country or move it in the more progressive direction. The thing I always know about Barack Obama is he's very strategic. And so he is going to speak out when he can have the most impact. Because if he was just out there responding to every Trump tweet, it would lose its power. So wait for the moment when he believes, and he's very often right about these things, he can have the most impact. I think you'll begin to see that with more frequency this fall.
So there are reports that President Obama is meeting privately with a lot of these people that may be running in 2020. Do you think that Joe Biden would be his favorite?
He and Biden are incredibly close. They say that they are brothers from another mother. That Barack Obama is an honorary Biden, if you will. I haven't talked about who he's going to support in the race or if he's going to support anyone. I just know he's very personally fond of Joe Biden, and no matter what Joe Biden does, he will be.
Is he running?
I don't know. I mean, he says he's thinking about it. Joe Biden, I'm from Delaware. Joe Biden's been my senator, my vice president almost my entire life. He'd have a lot to say, and he may be the right candidate for the time, but we just don't know, because campaigns, in my view, is a matching of the person in the moment.
Right.
We just don't know what that moment is going to be like 2 years from now.
Speaking of a lot to say, you have a lot to say. Pod Save America, which you guys created, these Obama staffers, has become one of the most successful podcasts of all podcasts, speaking to millions of people. Are you surprised by that, and why do you think that is working?
I am surprised by that every time that anyone listens, let alone the numbers at which you refer to. I think the reason that some Americans have found it to be interesting and important to them is that it is different than what most political media is. We try to talk like normal humans, not use jargon. It's not a bunch of people yelling at each other. We try to be a smart, funny, authentic conversation about what's happening. But it's not just that. We also want to explain what's happening in the news from our perspective, people with experience, but also tell people what they can do to change the outcome of this country. It is entertainment for the purposes of activism.
Well, speaking of the book, it's a way to get to know you better, but we also play a game here to help you get to know you. It's called Personal Issues.
Okay.
So we put 30 seconds on the clock, and so we can get to know a little bit about you. You ready?
Yep.
Ready to have some fun?
Let's do it.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Usual Suspects.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Meal you cook the most?
Bacon and eggs.
Favorite comedian?
Kevin Hart.
Favorite author?
Cormac McCarthy.
Favorite Disneyland ride?
Space Mountain.
Favorite superhero?
Spider-Man.
One thing you'd bring to a deserted island?
My phone.
Best thing about being a Californian?
The weather.
Favorite meal?
Ramen.
Wow.
There you go.
That's somebody who's worked a lot of nights. Ramen is your favorite meal.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Last question. Most important takeaway that you want people to take from your book?
I want people to know that it is in our control to make it so that that this era, the Trump era, is an aberration. It is a moment we will look back on in our politics with sadness, but it is only a moment. But it is up to us to make that reality happen.
As you would say, yes, we still can.
That's exactly right.
And speaking of that, I think we might have some music for that. Brings us back, right? Is that weird hearing that again?
It is. It is. I remember the day that we discovered that video. It blew us away.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here,
you.
Dan Pfeiffer. We appreciate it. Coming up next, we're going to talk about a lot of the big issues of the week with our panel. We'll be right back with more of these shows.
Yes, we can. The opportunity and prosperity. Yes, we can.